I never imagined my life would come to this. Standing in front of the floor-length mirror in my childhood bedroom, staring at a wedding dress I never chose, preparing to marry a man I've never met. My name is Emma Clarke, and today is supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it feels like I'm walking toward my own execution. The dress is beautiful, I'll admit that much. Ivory silk cascades down my body, hugging my curves before flowing into a delicate train. The lace sleeves are intricate, probably hand-sewn by some designer whose name I can't even pronounce. But all I can think about is how this dress represents a transaction, not a celebration. I'm not a bride. I'm a bargaining chip. Let me explain how I got here. 3 months ago, my father, Richard Clarke, came home with a face I'd never seen before. He looked defeated, broken, like someone had reached inside his chest and crushed his heart with their bare hands. My father built Clarke Industries from nothing, turning a small manufacturing company into a multi-million-dollar enterprise over 30 years. He was my hero, the man who taught me that hard work and integrity were the only currencies that mattered in life. That night, he sat me down in his study, the same room where he'd helped me with homework as a child, where we'd celebrated my college acceptance, where he told me my mother had cancer 7 years ago. The leather chair creaked as he sank into it, suddenly looking every one of his 58 years. "Emma, sweetheart," he began, his voice trembling in a way that made my stomach drop. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting." I nodded, gripping the armrests of my chair so tightly my knuckles turned white. "The company is bankrupt. We're going to lose everything." The words hit me like a physical blow. What? How is that possible? The quarterly reports were fabricated, he admitted, shame-coding every syllable. "Not by me, Emma. You have to believe that. My business partner, Gerald Thompson, he's been embezzling funds for years. By the time I discovered it, he'd already fled the country with nearly $20 million. The debts he left behind, the contracts he signed without my knowledge, they're all in the company's name. Our name." I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I forced them back. "We'll fight this. We'll hire lawyers. There's no time," my father interrupted, his voice breaking. "The creditors are demanding payment within 90 days, or they'll seize everything. The company, this house, our savings, your college fund. Everything we've worked for will be gone. And Emma, there's something else." He paused, looking at me with such profound sadness that I wanted to look away. "Your mother's medical bills from her final year. I took out personal loans to cover them. If the company goes under, those debts become due immediately. We won't just lose our assets. We could face criminal charges for fraud, even though we're the victims here." My mother. Even 7 years after her death, the mention of her could still make my chest ache. She'd fought breast cancer for 3 years. And my father had spared no expense trying to save her. Experimental treatments, the best doctors, private facilities. In the end, none of it mattered. She died anyway, and apparently she left us drowning in debt. "So what do we do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My father stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the manicured gardens my mother had loved. "There's one option. One person who has the resources to save us and the motivation to do it." "Who?" "Alexander Miller." Then he meant nothing to me at first, but then I remembered. The Millers. One of the wealthiest families in the country, maybe the world. Old money mixed with new. A dynasty that controlled everything from real estate to technology to media. They were the kind of people you read about in magazines, not the kind you actually met. Why would someone like that help us? I asked, confusion mixing with a desperate hope. My father turned to face me, and I saw tears streaming down his cheeks. In that moment, I knew. I knew before he said the words. "Because I promised him you." The room spun. "What?" 25 years ago, before you were born, before I even met your mother. I was drowning in debt trying to start the company. Robert Miller, Alexander's father, gave me a loan. $500,000, interest-free, with one condition. If he ever needed a favor, I would grant it, no questions asked. I thought he'd forgotten. It's been decades. But 2 weeks ago, he called in the debt. And the favor is me, I said flatly, numbness spreading through my body. He wants you to marry his son, Alexander. Robert says it's time for Alexander to settle down, to have a wife who understands duty and family. He investigated our situation and offered a deal. You marry Alexander, and he'll pay off all our debts, save the company, and give us a fresh start. If you refuse, he couldn't finish the sentence. I stood up, my legs shaking. You're selling me, like property. No, Emma, it's not like that. Then what is it like, Dad? The sound that came out of me was bitter, hollow. You're trading your daughter to save your company. That's exactly what this is. I'm trying to save our family, he pleaded. If we lose everything, what kind of life will you have? You'll be the daughter of a bankrupt criminal. No one will hire you. You'll spend years trying to dig yourself out of debt that isn't even yours. And least this way, you'll be taken care of. The Millers are a good family. Alexander is. Alexander is what? I demanded. Tell me about this man you're forcing me to marry. My father hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. He's 32 years old. He's the heir to the Miller empire. He's intelligent, educated, and I pressed. And he was in a car accident 2 years ago. He's been in a wheelchair ever since. The doctors say he'll never walk again. There it was, the truth beneath the transaction. Alexander Miller wasn't just any heir. He was damaged goods, at least in the eyes of high society. No woman from his social circle would marry him now. Not when there were so many other wealthy, able-bodied men to choose from. So we needed someone who had no choice, someone like me. He's also known for having a cruel temperament, my father added quietly. Since the accident, he's become reclusive, cold. He's fired dozens of employees for minor mistakes. The media calls him the Ice King of the Miller dynasty. But Emma, he's our only option. I've exhausted every other possibility. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to tell my father that he was a coward for even asking this of me. But when I looked at his face, at the man who had raised me alone after my mother died, who had worked himself to exhaustion to give me every opportunity, I felt my resolve crumbling. How long do I have to decide? I asked. The wedding is scheduled for 3 months from now. Robert Miller insisted on a proper engagement period for appearances. But Emma, if you're going to refuse, I need to know now so I can try to find another way. We both knew there was no other way. I thought about my mother, about how she'd always told me that family was everything, that we protect the people we love no matter the cost. She'd sacrificed her comfort, her dignity, her very life fighting to stay with us as long as possible. Could I do any less? I'll do it, I heard myself say. I'll marry him. My father's relief was palpable, but it was mixed with such profound guilt that I almost took the words back. Almost. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. But we both knew some debts could never be repaid. That conversation happened 90 days ago. 90 days of preparation, of signing prenuptial agreements I barely read, of being fitted for this dress, of learning about the man who would become my husband through gossip magazines and internet searches since he refused to meet me before the wedding. Alexander Miller, 32 years old, 6 feet 2 inches tall before the accident, though that hardly mattered now. Dark hair, dark eyes, a face that could have been carved from marble. In the photos from before his accident, he looked arrogant, powerful, like someone who'd never heard the word no in his entire life. In the few photos taken after, he looked like a different person entirely. Cold, distant, angry at the world. The tabloids had a field day with our engagement announcement. Crippled hair to wed unknown woman, one headline screamed. Is love possible for the Ice King? Another asked mockingly. My personal favorite was From Rags to Riches, the Cinderella story of Emma Clarke, which made me sound like a gold digger rather than a sacrifice. I tried to reach out to Alexander several times during our engagement. I called his private number, sent emails, even showed up at Miller Tower once. Every attempt was blocked by his assistant, a severe woman named Patricia, who informed me in clipped tones that Mr. Miller will see you on your wedding day and not before. So here I am, 3 months later, staring at a stranger in the mirror. My long auburn hair has been styled into an elegant updo. My green eyes enhanced with makeup I would never normally wear. My lips painted a soft pink. I look like a bride. I look beautiful. I look like a lie. Knock on door. Emma, sweetheart, it's time. My father's voice calls from the hallway. Time. Yes, I suppose it is. I take one last look at the girl in the mirror, memorizing her face, because I know that after today, she'll be gone forever. Emma Clarke, the girl who dreamed of falling in love, of choosing her own path, of living a life that was truly hers, will cease to exist. In her place will be Mrs. Alexander Miller, wife to a man who doesn't want her, trapped in a marriage built on debt and desperation. I open the door. My father stands there in his best suit, the one he wore to my mother's funeral. His eyes are red-rimmed, and I can tell he's been crying. You look just like your mother, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. Don't, I say sharply. Don't compare this to her wedding day. She married for love. I'm marrying for money. He flinches, but doesn't argue. What could he say? The drive to the Miller estate takes 45 minutes. We don't speak. I watch the city give way to suburbs, then to the sprawling countryside where the truly wealthy live, hidden behind gates and walls and security systems. Finally, we turn onto a private road marked only by a discreet sign. Miller Estate Private Property. The driveway alone must be 2 miles long. Winding through perfectly manicured grounds, I see gardens, fountains, even a small lake in the distance. This isn't a home. It's a kingdom. The main house finally comes into view. And I can't help the small sound of shock that escapes me. It's enormous, a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and steel and stone. At least 3 stories tall and sprawling across what must be 50,000 square feet. This is where I'll live now. This cold, beautiful prison. The car stops at the front entrance, where a small army of staff waits to greet us. A butler, maid, security personnel, all dressed in crisp uniforms, all wearing the same neutral expression. They've been trained not to show emotion, I realize. Just like I'll need to be trained. Miss Clarke, the butler says with a slight bow, welcome to Miller Estate. I'm James, the head of household staff. If you'll follow me, the ceremony will begin in 30 minutes. Your father will be escorted to a seat. My father squeezes my hand once, a silent apology and goodbye. Before being led away by one of the staff members, I'm left alone with James, who guides me through a side entrance and down a hallway lined with priceless art. The ceremony will take place in the main ballroom, James explains as we walk. There will be approximately 200 guests in attendance. After the ceremony, there will be a reception dinner followed by dancing. You and Mr. Miller will be expected to stay for at least 3 hours before retiring to the master suite. The master suite, where I'll spend my wedding night with a stranger who hates me. Shh, I understand, I manage to say. We reach a small room adjacent to the ballroom. To the walls, I can hear the murmur of voices, the soft strains of classical music. 200 people, all waiting to watch me sign my life away. Someone will come for you when it's time, James says, then leaves me alone. I pace the small room, my heart hammering against my ribs. I think about running. I could slip out a side door, call a cab, disappear. But where would I go? My father would lose everything. The guilt would destroy him. And honestly, where would I run to? I have no money of my own, no family besides my father, no real skills beyond a bachelor's degree in art history that's proven utterly useless in the job market. No, there's no escape. There never was. Knock on door. A young woman in a bridesmaid's dress enters. I don't recognize her. It's time, she says with a practiced smile. I follow her to the ballroom doors. Through the crack, I can see the space beyond. It's breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hang from a ceiling painted with classical frescoes. White roses and orchids cover every surface. The guests are dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits, the kind of people who appear in society pages and charity galas. And at the end of the long white aisle, I see him for the first time. Alexander Miller. He's in a wheelchair, just as I expected, dressed in a black tuxedo that probably costs more than my father's car. Even from this distance, I can see he's handsome, devastatingly so, with sharp features and an expression of complete indifference. He's not looking at the doors, not waiting eagerly for his bride. He's staring straight ahead, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the armrests of his wheelchair. He looks like a man at his own funeral, not his wedding. The music changes. The wedding march begins. The doors open. This is it. The moment my old life ends and my new one begins. I start walking, my legs moving on autopilot. Every eye in the room turns to me, but I only see him. Alexander, my husband, my jailer. As I get closer, I can see more details. His eyes are indeed dark, almost black, and they're filled with such cold fury that I nearly stumble. His jaw is clenched so tightly I can see the muscle jumping. His hands are white-knuckled on the armrests. He hates this. He hates Nis. The realization should hurt, but instead I feel a strange kinship. We're both prisoners here, both forced into this marriage by circumstances beyond our control. I reach the end of the aisle. My father, sitting in the front row, is openly weeping. I can't look at him. The officiant, an elderly man in formal robes, begins speaking. I don't hear the words. I'm too focused on Alexander, on the man who will control every aspect of my life from this moment forward. Do you, Alexander James Miller, take Emma Rose Clarke to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice is deep, cold, emotionless. He doesn't look at me. And do you, Emma Rose Clarke, take Alexander James Miller to be your lawfully wedded husband? This is my last chance. I could say no. I could run. I could choose myself over my father, over duty, over everything I've been taught about family and sacrifice. I do. The words taste like ash in my mouth. Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Alexander finally looks at me, and the hatred in his eyes makes me want to weep. But he leans forward slightly, and I bend down, and our lips meet in the briefest, coldest kiss I've ever experienced. It's not romantic. It's not even human. It's a contractual obligation, nothing more. The guests applaud. I hear champagne corks popping. Someone is crying tears of joy, though I can't imagine why. We're married. I'm Mrs. Alexander Miller now, and I've never felt more alone in my entire life. The reception is a blur of faces and forced smiles. I sit beside Alexander at the head table, acutely aware of the space between us. He doesn't speak to me, doesn't acknowledge me except when absolutely necessary for appearances. When guests approach to offer congratulations, he responds with curt nods and monosyllabic answers. I do my best to smile and play the role of the happy bride, but I can feel the curious stares, hear the whispered speculation. She's pretty enough, I suppose, but where did she come from? I heard her father's company was going bankrupt. This is obviously a business arrangement. Poor Alexander, forced to marry some nobody. At least she'll take care of him now that he's. They don't bother to lower their voices much. Why would they? I'm not really one of them. I'm an outsider, a charity case, someone to be pitied or scorned but never respected. The dinner is served. Course after course of food I can barely taste. Alexander eats mechanically, his movements precise and controlled. I notice he doesn't need any assistance, that his upper body strength is evident in the way he maneuvers his wheelchair, cuts his food, reaches for his wine glass. Whatever the accident took from him, it didn't take his independence or his pride. After dinner, there's the obligatory first dance. I watch with growing dread as the band begins to play, wondering how this will work. But Alexander simply wheels himself to the center of the dance floor, and I understand. I'm supposed to stand beside him, to sway gently while he remains stationary, a mockery of a real first dance. I take my position next to his wheelchair, and the photographer captures the moment for posterity. The flash blinds me temporarily, and I blink away tears that have nothing to do with the light. Smile, Alexander says quietly, his first words to me since the ceremony. You're getting paid well enough for this performance. The cruelty of the comment takes my breath away. I want to tell him that I didn't want this either, that I'm just as trapped as he is, but the words stick in my throat. What's the point? He's already decided who I am, what I am. A gold digger, a social climber, someone who sold herself for money and status. The song ends mercifully quickly. Alexander wheels away without another word, leaving me standing alone on the dance floor. My father approaches, offering to dance, but I shake my head. I can't bear his touch right now, can't bear the guilt and pity in his eyes. The next 3 hours are torture. I make small talk with guests I'll never see again, accept congratulations that feel like condolences, and watch my husband hold court from across the room, surrounded by business associates who seem to have no problem with his cold demeanor. In his world, warmth is weakness, emotion is a liability. He's exactly what they expect him to be. Finally, mercifully, James appears at my elbow. Mrs. Miller, Mr. Miller has retired to the master suite. I'll show you the way. Mrs. Miller. The name sounds foreign, like it belongs to someone else. I follow James through the massive house, up a grand staircase, down another hallway lined with more priceless art. We pass dozens of rooms, and I wonder absently how anyone can need this much space. We stop in front of a set of double doors at the end of the hallway. The master suite, James announces. Your belongings have already been moved in. If you need anything, there's a phone by the bed that connects directly to the staff quarters. Good night, Mrs. Miller. He leaves before I can respond, his footsteps echoing down the hallway until I'm alone in the silence. I stare at the doors for a long moment, gathering my courage. This is my wedding night? In a normal marriage, this would be a moment of intimacy, of connection, of beginning a life together. But there's nothing normal about this marriage. I push open the doors and step inside. The master suite is enormous, easily the size of my entire childhood home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the estate grounds, now dark except for strategically placed lights that illuminate the gardens. The furniture is modern and expensive, all clean lines and neutral colors. There's a sitting area with a fireplace, a massive bed that could easily fit 4 people, and doors leading to what I assume are a bathroom and closet. Alexander is by the windows, his back to me, staring out at the darkness. He's removed his jacket and tie, and I can see the tension in his shoulders, the rigid set of his spine. Close the door, he says without turning around. I do as he asks, my heart hammering. The click of the latch sounds unnaturally loud in the quiet room. I want to make something very clear. Alexander continues, still not looking at me. This marriage is a business arrangement, nothing more. You will have your own room down the hall. You will not enter this suite without permission. In public, you will play the role of my devoted wife. In private, you will stay out of my way. Do you understand? Relief and humiliation war within me. I understand. Good. Your room has been prepared. James will show you in the morning. For tonight, you can sleep on the couch. The sound escapes me before I can stop it, bitter and sharp. You're making me sleep on the couch on our wedding night. Would you prefer to share the bed? He finally turns to face me, and the look in his eyes is pure ice. I didn't think so. The couch is comfortable enough. Consider it a mercy. I want to argue, to defend myself, to make him see that I'm not the enemy here. But I'm exhausted, emotionally and physically drained, and I don't have the energy for a fight I can't win. Fine, I say quietly. The couch is fine. I move toward the sitting area, but Alexander's voice stops me. One more thing. Don't expect me to play the doting husband. I didn't want this marriage. I don't want you. The only reason I agreed was to appease my father and secure certain business interests. You're a means to an end, nothing more. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for both of us. Each word is a knife, carefully aimed to wound. I should be used to it by now. Should have built up armor against this kind of cruelty. But I haven't, and it hurts more than I want to admit. I never asked for this either, I say, my voice shaking. I never wanted to marry someone who hates me. I never wanted to be sold like property to save my father's company. But here we are, both trapped in a situation neither of us chose. So maybe instead of treating me like the enemy, You could try treating me like a human being. For a moment, just a moment, something flickers in Alexander's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. But it's gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that cold indifference. Go to sleep, Emma. We have a long life ahead of us. You'll need your rest. He wheels himself toward the bathroom, and I hear the door close. The lock click into place. I sink onto the couch, still wearing my wedding dress. And finally, let the tears come. I cry for the life I've lost, for the future I'll never have. For the girl in the mirror who dreamed of love and got a business transaction instead. Eventually, exhaustion wins. I fall asleep on the couch, my wedding dress wrinkled and tear-stained, my dreams filled with locked doors and cold eyes. I wake to sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of movement in the room. Yawn. For a moment, I forget where I am, why I'm sleeping on a couch in a wedding dress. Then memory crashes back and I sit up quickly, my neck aching from the awkward position. Alexander is by the windows again, dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark slacks, his wheelchair positioned to catch the morning light. He's reading something on a tablet, his expression focused and intense. He looks different in the daylight, I realize. Younger, less severe. Almost human. You're awake, he says without looking up. James will be here shortly to show you to your room. I have meetings all day. You're free to explore the house and grounds, but stay out of the West Wing. That's my private office and gym. I don't want to be disturbed. Good morning to you too, I mutter, standing up and trying to smooth out my ruined dress. He finally looks at me and something like amusement crosses his face. You look terrible. Thank you. That's exactly what every bride wants to hear the morning after her wedding. We're not a normal couple, Emma. The sooner you stop expecting normal courtesies, the better. Knock on door. Come in, Alexander calls. James enters, his expression neutral as always, though I see his eyes flicker briefly to my disheveled appearance. Good morning, Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller. I'm here to escort Mrs. Court. Miller to her quarters. Thank you, James, Alexander says, already turning back to his tablet, dismissing me without another word. I follow James out of the master suite down the hallway, and to a door about 6 rooms away. He opens it to reveal a beautiful bedroom, smaller than the master suite, but still larger than any room I've ever had. The furniture is elegant, the colors soft and feminine. There's a private bathroom, a walk-in closet already filled with clothes I've never seen before, and windows overlooking the gardens. This will be your room, Mrs. Miller, James explains. Your personal belongings from your father's house have been unpacked and organized. If the clothing selections are not to your taste, we can arrange for a personal shopper. Breakfast is served in the morning room at 8, lunch at noon, and dinner at 7. Miller typically takes his meals in his office, but you're welcome to dine in the formal dining room or have trays sent to your room. So I'll be eating alone, I say flatly. James's expression doesn't change. That is Mr. Miller's preference, yes. However, you are the lady of the house now. The staff is at your disposal. If you need anything, simply pick up the phone. He leaves, and I'm alone again in this beautiful, empty room. The first week of my marriage is a study in loneliness. I barely see Alexander. He leaves early for his office in the West Wing and doesn't emerge until late at night. We don't share meals. We don't have conversations. I'm living in the same house as my husband, and we might as well be strangers. I explore the estate because there's nothing else to do. The house has 23 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, a library that rivals some universities, a home theater, an indoor pool, and a wine cellar that probably costs more than most people's homes. The grounds include tennis courts, a stable with 6 horses, and gardens that require a full-time staff of 8 to maintain. It's all beautiful, it's all perfect, it's all completely soulless. I try to establish some kind of routine. I wake at 7, have breakfast alone in the morning room, then spend my days reading in the library or walking the grounds. I avoid the West Wing as instructed, though sometimes I hear sounds from behind those closed doors. Music occasionally, the whir of exercise equipment. Once, I could have sworn I heard someone walking, footsteps echoing on hardwood floors. But that's impossible. Alexander can't walk. The staff is polite but distant. They call me Mrs. Miller fulfill my requests efficiently but never engage in real conversation. I'm their employer, not their friend. The distinction is clear. My father calls every day, asking how I am, if I'm happy. If Alexander is treating me well, I lie and tell him everything is fine, that I'm adjusting, that my husband is kind. I can hear the relief in his voice, the guilt easing slightly. I don't have the heart to tell him the truth. 2 weeks into my marriage, I'm in the library when I hear raised voices coming from the direction of the West Wing. I shouldn't investigate. Alexander made it clear that area is off limits. But curiosity and boredom win out, and I find myself walking down the hallway, following the sound. Absolutely unacceptable. Alexander's voice sharp with anger. I don't care what the board thinks. This is my company, and I'll run it as I see fit. Alexander, please be reasonable. A woman's voice, older, patient. The board members are concerned about your ability to lead given your condition. They're not trying to undermine you, they're trying to protect the company. My condition, Alexander repeats, his voice dripping with venom. You mean my wheelchair. Say it, Patricia. They think I'm weak because I can't walk. That's not what I get out. Tell the board I'll address their concerns at next week's meeting, and Patricia. If anyone suggests replacing me as CEO again, they'll find themselves looking for new employment. I hear a door open and close, then silence. I should leave, should go back to the library before I'm caught eavesdropping. But something keeps me rooted in place. Then I hear it. Footsteps. Clear, distinct footsteps coming from inside the West Wing. My heart stops. That's impossible. Alexander can't walk. The doctor said he'd never walk again. Everyone knows that. It's the reason he's so bitter, the reason he became the Ice King, the reason no woman from his social circle would marry him. But I'm hearing footsteps. I move closer to the door, my hand trembling as I reach for the handle. I shouldn't do this. I should respect his privacy, should trust that there's a reasonable explanation. But I can't stop myself. I turn the handle slowly, quietly, and push the door open just a crack. Through the narrow opening, I see Alexander, standing, walking, moving across the room with perfect, fluid grace, no wheelchair in sight. He's pacing, his movements angry and agitated, but completely, undeniably normal. He can walk. He's been lying this entire time. I must make a sound because Alexander's head snaps toward the door. Our eyes meet, and for a moment, time stops. I see shock flash across his face, then calculation, then something dark and dangerous. Emma, he says quietly, his voice deadly calm. I believe I told you to stay out of the West Wing. I should run. Every instinct screams at me to run. But I'm frozen, my mind trying to process what I'm seeing, what it means. Alexander walks toward me, each step deliberate and predatory. He's not in a wheelchair. He doesn't need a wheelchair. He never needed a wheelchair. How long have you been standing there? He asks, reaching the door and pulling it fully open. I heard voices. I didn't mean to. How long, Emma? Long enough, I whisper. You can walk. You've been lying to everyone. Why? Alexander studies me for a long moment, and I can see him weighing his options, deciding what to do with me now that I know his secret. Finally, he steps back and gestures into the room. Come in. Close the door behind you. I think it's time we had a real conversation. My legs feel like jelly, but I force myself to move, to step into the forbidden West Wing and close the door. The room is a combination office and gym, with a massive desk covered in monitors and paperwork on one side and state-of-the-art exercise equipment on the other. The wheelchair sits empty in the corner, a prop waiting for its next performance. Sit, Alexander commands, pointing to a chair near the desk. I sit, my mind racing. He can walk. He's been pretending to be disabled for 2 years. The accident was real, but the paralysis wasn't. Or maybe it was, and he recovered. Either way, he's been lying to the world, to his family, to me. Why? I ask again. Why would you pretend to be paralyzed? Alexander leans against his desk, crossing his arms over his chest. In this position, standing at his full height, he's intimidating in a way he never was in the wheelchair. He's tall, powerfully built. and radiating an authority that makes me want to shrink into my chair. Because I needed to know, he says simply. Know what? Who was loyal? Who actually cared about me versus who cared about my money and status? He laughs, but there's no humor in it. The accident was real. I was in a coma for 3 days, had multiple surgeries, spent months in physical therapy. The doctor said I might never walk again, but I proved them wrong. I recovered fully about 18 months ago, and you didn't tell anyone. I told my father. He's the only one who knows. And now you? Alexander's eyes narrow. The accident was enlightening, Emma. When I was in that hospital bed, when everyone thought I might die or be permanently disabled, I saw people's true colors. My fiancé at the time, a woman I'd been with for 3 years, broke off our engagement within a week. She couldn't be tied to a cripple, she said. My business partner started maneuvering to push me out of the company. My so-called friends disappeared. Everyone assumed I was finished, that I was no longer useful or valuable. I can hear the bitterness in his voice, the deep wound that never healed. So when I recovered, I decided to keep pretending. I wanted to see who would stick around. Who would be loyal to Alexander Miller? The man, not Alexander Miller, the heir. And do you know what I discovered? He leans forward, his face inches from mine. Everyone is a liar. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an agenda. Including me, I say quietly, understanding now. You think I married you for your money, didn't you? He challenges. Your father was bankrupt. I offer to save him in exchange for you. That's not love, Emma. That's a transaction. You're right, I admit, and I see surprise flicker across his face. It was a transaction, but not one I wanted. I didn't ask my father to sell me. I didn't ask to be traded like property. I did it because I love him, because I couldn't watch him lose everything. But that doesn't mean I'm happy about it. And it doesn't mean I deserve to be treated like I'm worthless. Alexander studies me, and I can see him reassessing, recalculating. You're not what I expected, he says finally. Neither are you. I expected a bitter man in a wheelchair. Instead, I got a liar who's been playing games with everyone around him. Careful, Emma. You're in no position to judge me. Maybe not. But I'm also in no position to expose you, am I? If I tell anyone what I saw, you'll destroy my father. That's how this works, right? You hold all the power, and I have none. Smart girl, Alexander says, but there's a hint of respect in his voice now. Yes, that's exactly how this works. You'll keep my secret, and in return, I'll continue to honor my agreement with your father. His debts are paid, his company is secure. As long as you play your role as my devoted wife, everyone gets what they want. Except me, I say bitterly. I don't get anything except a husband who hates me and a life that isn't mine. Alexander is quiet for a moment, then he does something unexpected. He pulls over a chair and sits down across from me, meeting my eyes at the same level. I don't hate you, Emma. I don't know you well enough to hate you. But I don't trust you either. I don't trust anyone anymore. Then why did you agree to marry me? If you're so convinced everyone is a liar, why bring someone new into your life? Because my father insisted. Because the board was using my condition as an excuse to question my leadership. Because a wife, especially one who appears to be caring for her disabled husband, makes me look stable, settled, less of a risk. You're part of my armor, Emma, a shield against people who want to see me fail. The honesty is brutal, but I appreciate it more than his earlier cruelty. At least now I understand the game we're playing. So what happens now? I ask. You told me your secret. What do you want from me? Alexander stands, and I realize he's made a decision. Now, we establish new rules. You know the truth, which makes you either my greatest liability or my greatest asset. I'm choosing to believe you can be the latter. What does that mean? It means we're going to make this marriage real. Not in the romantic sense, he adds quickly, seeing my expression, but in the practical sense. You'll continue to play the devoted wife in public, but in private, you'll be my partner, my confidant, someone I can trust to keep my secrets and help me maintain this charade. And in return, I'll treat you with respect. I'll give you freedom within reason. I'll make sure you're comfortable and cared for. And when the time is right, when I've secured my position and eliminated my enemies, we can discuss what comes next. Maybe we stay married. Maybe we divorce quietly. But for now, we're in this together. He extends his hand, offering a deal. A real partnership, not the cold arrangement we've had so far. I look at his hand, then at his face. I'm searching for deception, for the catch, for the trap. But all I see is a man who's been hurt so badly that he's built walls around himself, who's so afraid of being betrayed that he's become the betrayer first. I understand that, maybe more than he realizes. I take his hand. Partners, then. But Alexander, if we're going to do this, you need to stop treating me like the enemy. I'm not the one who hurt you. His grip is firm, warm, fair enough. And Emma, thank you for not screaming or running when you saw me walk. Most people would have. Most people haven't been forced to marry a stranger to save their family. I'm getting used to impossible situations. For the first time since I met him, Alexander smiles. It's small, barely there, but it's real. I think this might actually work. I hope he's right. Because I'm trapped in this marriage either way. And I'd rather be partners with my husband than enemies, even if that husband has been lying to the world for 2 years. Even if I'm now complicit in that lie. Even if I have no idea what I've just agreed to. The next 3 months transform my life in ways I never expected. After our conversation in the West Wing, Alexander and I establish a new routine, a careful dance of public performance and private partnership. In public, I'm the devoted wife, always at his side during business dinners and charity galas. I learn to place my hand gently on his shoulder when we pose for photographs, to lean down and whisper in his ear as if sharing intimate secrets, to smile adoringly while he plays the role of the wheelchair-bound CEO who found love despite his disability. The media eats it up. The Ice King melts for his bride, one headline proclaims. True love conquers all, another gushes. If only they knew the truth. In private, we're something else entirely. Not quite friends, not quite lovers, but partners in an elaborate deception. Alexander teaches me about his business, explaining the complex web of companies and investments that make up the Miller Empire. I learn about hostile takeovers and board politics, about the enemies who want to see him fail, and the allies who are only loyal as long as he's useful. Knowledge is power, Alexander tells me one evening as we sit in his office, reviewing financial reports. The more you understand about my world, the better you can help me protect it. I'm surprised to discover I have a talent for this. My art history degree, which seemed so useless before, actually helps me understand the psychology of the wealthy collectors and investors Alexander deals with. I can read people, sense their motivations, spot the liars and the opportunists. Alexander starts bringing me into meetings, introducing me as his wife, but relying on my observations afterward. The man from the Singapore deal. I tell him after one particularly tense negotiation. He's hiding something. Did you see how he touched his watch every time you mentioned the timeline? That's a tell. He's worried about meeting the deadline. Alexander looks at me with something like admiration. You're right. I'll have Patricia dig deeper into their financials. If they're overextended, we can renegotiate the terms in our favor. These moments of collaboration are when I see glimpses of the man Alexander might have been before the accident, before the betrayals, before he built his walls. He's brilliant, driven, and surprisingly funny when he lets his guard down. He has a dry wit that catches me off guard, making me laugh when I least expect it. But he's also still playing his role. Every morning he gets into his wheelchair before the staff sees him. Every public appearance is carefully choreographed. And every night, he retreats to the master suite alone while I go to my separate room. We don't discuss the physical aspect of our marriage. We don't discuss feelings or attraction or what might happen if we stopped pretending. There's a line we don't cross, an unspoken agreement that this partnership is professional, not personal. Except sometimes, I catch him looking at me with an expression I can't quite read. And sometimes when I'm helping him with his tie before an event, my fingers brushing against his collar, I feel a spark of something that has nothing to do with business. I ignore it. We both do. During the following weeks, I start to carve out my own space in this strange new life. Alexander gives me access to one of his credit cards with no limit, telling me to buy whatever you want, do whatever you want. Just maintain appearances. I could go crazy with that kind of freedom. I could buy designer clothes and expensive jewelry, could spend my days shopping and lunching with other wealthy wives. But that's not who I am, and I think Alexander knows that. Instead, I start volunteering at a local art museum, using my degree for something meaningful. I also begin taking business classes on mine, determined to be more than just a pretty face at Alexander's side. If I'm going to be his partner, I want to be a real asset, not just a prop. Alexander notices. "You're taking classes," he says one evening, finding me in the library with my laptop and a stack of textbooks. Is that a problem? No, I'm impressed. Most women in your position would be content to spend my money and look pretty. I'm not most women. No, he agrees, his dark eyes studying me intently. You're not. There's a moment of tension, of something unspoken hanging in the air between us. Then Alexander's phone rings, breaking the spell, and he wheels away to take the call. I release a breath I didn't know I was holding. 3 months after our wedding, Alexander's father, Robert Miller, invites us to dinner at his estate. It's the first time I'll meet him since the wedding, and I'm nervous. This is the man who orchestrated our marriage, who called in a 25-year-old debt to acquire a wife for his son. Don't worry, Alexander tells me as we drive to his father's house. He's going to love you. You're exactly what he wanted. And what's that? Someone loyal. Someone who won't abandon me because of my supposed disability. Someone who understands duty and family. I notice he's in his wheelchair, of course. His father knows the truth, but the staff at Robert's estate doesn't. The performance continues. Robert Miller is in his early 60s, tall and distinguished with silver hair and the same dark eyes as his son. He greets us warmly, kissing my cheek and clapping Alexander on the shoulder. Emma, my dear, you look radiant. Marriage clearly agrees with you. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Please call me Robert. We're family now. He leads us into a formal dining room where an elaborate meal has been prepared. I wanted to have you both over sooner, but Alexander insisted you needed time to adjust to married life. I hope my son has been treating you well. I glance at Alexander, who's watching me carefully. This is a test, I realize. Robert wants to know if I'm going to complain, if I'm going to reveal any cracks in our facade. Alexander has been wonderful, I say smoothly. He's been very patient, helping me adjust to this new life. I'm grateful for his guidance. Robert beams. Excellent. You know, Emma, I had my doubts about this arrangement at first. Arranged marriages are so old-fashioned, and I worried you might resent being forced into this situation. But seeing you two together, I can tell I made the right choice. You certainly did, Alexander says, reaching over to take my hand. The gesture looks natural, affectionate, but I can feel the tension in his grip. Emma has exceeded all my expectations. We make it through dinner with our performance intact. Robert talks about business, about family history, about his hopes for grandchildren someday. That last comment makes both Alexander and me tense, but we deflect smoothly. As we're leaving, Robert pulls me aside while Alexander is speaking with the butler. Emma, I want you to know something, he says quietly. I know this wasn't the marriage you dreamed of. I know you sacrificed your own desires to save your father. That kind of loyalty, that kind of strength is rare. Alexander needs someone like you. He's been through so much, and he's built walls around himself. But I see the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. There's something there, something real. Don't give up on him. His words surprise me. I won't, I promise, though I'm not sure what I'm promising exactly. On the drive home, Alexander is quiet. Finally, he says, You handled that well. My father can be intense. He loves you. He wants you to be happy. He wants me to be stable and produce heirs. That's not the same as happy. Maybe not, but he's not wrong about one thing. What's that? I turn to look at him, at this complicated man who's become such a central part of my life. You have built walls, and they're so high that you can't see what's right in front of you. And what's right in front of me? Someone who's trying. Someone who's keeping your secrets and playing your games and doing everything you've asked. Someone who could be more than just a business partner, if you'd let her. Alexander's hands tighten on the wheelchair controls. Emma, I'm not asking for love, I interrupt. I'm not even asking for romance, but maybe we could try being friends. Real friends, not just partners in a scheme. Because this life is lonely enough without feeling like I'm completely alone in my own marriage. He's quiet for a long moment. Then softly, he says, I'll think about it. It's not a yes, but it's not a no either. It's progress. That night, for the first time since our wedding, Alexander knocks on my bedroom door. Come in, I call, setting aside the book I was reading. He wheels in, looking uncertain in a way I've never seen before. I thought about what you said, about being friends. And you're right. This is lonely. And you've kept your word. You've been loyal, helpful, discreet. You deserve better than what I've been giving you. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small box. I never gave you a proper wedding ring. The one you wore at the ceremony was just for show. Borrowed from the family collection. This is yours, if you want it. I take the box with trembling hands and open it. Inside is a stunning ring. A large diamond, surrounded by smaller emeralds that match my eyes. It's beautiful, personal, clearly chosen with care. Alexander, this is too much. Not enough. I'm not good at this, Emma. I don't know how to do relationships anymore, but I want to try. With you. If you're willing, I slip the ring onto my finger. It fits perfectly. I'm willing. He smiles, that rare, genuine smile that transforms his entire face. Friends, then. Friends, I agree. He leaves shortly after, but something has shifted between us. A wall has come down just a little. Over the next several weeks, our friendship deepens. Alexander starts having dinner with me instead of eating alone in his office. We watch movies together in the home theater, debate books from the library, take walks through the gardens in the evening when the staff has gone home and he can walk freely. I learn things about him I never expected. He loves classical music but secretly enjoys terrible reality TV. He's afraid of spiders but won't admit it. He wanted to be an architect before his father insisted he join the family business. He still dreams about the accident sometimes. Wakes up in a cold sweat remembering the moment of impact. I was driving too fast, he tells me one night as we sit by the pool. His feet dangling in the water while I sit beside him. I was angry about something, I don't even remember what now. And I wasn't paying attention. The other driver ran a red light, but if I'd been going the speed limit, I might have been able to stop in time. So really, it was my fault. You can't blame yourself for someone else's mistake, can't I? I've spent 2 years blaming everyone else for mine. Seems only fair. I take his hand, lacing our fingers together. It's the first time I've initiated physical contact beyond what's required for our public appearances. You're not the villain in this story, Alexander. You're just someone who got hurt and is trying to protect himself. I understand that. He looks at our joined hands, then at my face. How did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just paying attention. He lifts our hands and kisses my knuckles. A gesture so tender it makes my breath catch. Thank you, Emma, for seeing me. The real me, not the role I play. Thank you for letting me. We sit there in comfortable silence, hands linked. And I realize with a start that I'm happy. Despite everything. Despite the lies and the arrangement and the complicated mess of our marriage, I'm happy. And that terrifies me, because happiness means vulnerability. It means I have something to lose. And in Alexander's world, everything can be taken away in an instant. 4 months into our marriage, things start to get complicated. Alexander's ex-fiancée, Victoria Sterling, returns from Europe where she's been living since their breakup. She's a stunning blonde with perfect features and a pedigree that makes my middle-class background look like poverty. She's also, according to the tabloids, heartbroken over losing Alexander and desperate to win him back. She's going to be at the charity gala tomorrow night, Alexander tells me. His jaw tight. I wanted to warn you, she'll probably try to cause a scene. What kind of scene? The kind where she plays the victim. Makes me look like the villain who abandoned her. and tries to make you look like the opportunist who stole her man. It's all theater, Emma. Don't let her get to you. But the next night, when we arrive at the gala and I see Victoria for the first time, I understand why Alexander is worried. She's not just beautiful. She's magnetic, commanding attention the moment she enters a room. And when she sees Alexander, her face crumples into an expression of such profound sadness that even I almost believe it. Alexander, she breathes, gliding over to us in a dress that probably costs more than a car. I've missed you so much. She completely ignores me, focusing all her attention on Alexander. I feel a flash of irritation, but I keep my expression neutral. Victoria, Alexander says coolly. I heard you were back in town. Emma, this is Victoria Sterling. Victoria, my wife, Emma Miller. Victoria finally looks at me, and the contempt in her eyes is barely concealed. Oh yes, the wife. How quaint. Tell me, dear, how does it feel to be married to a man who can't even— Careful, Alexander interrupts, his voice deadly quiet. Finish that sentence, and I'll make sure every door in this city closes to you. Victoria's smile is poisonous, still so protective. It's almost sweet. Let we both know this marriage is a sham, Alexander. You married her out of desperation, not love. When you're ready to admit that, I'll be waiting. She walks away, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and malice. I'm sorry about that, Alexander says, his hand finding mine. She's horrible, I suggest, cruel, delusional. He laughs, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. All of the above. I can't believe I almost married her. You dodged a bullet, or in your case, a car accident. The joke is in poor taste, but Alexander laughs harder. Too soon, Emma. Too soon. But Victoria's appearance has planted a seed of doubt in my mind. She's right about one thing. Our marriage is a sham. We're friends now, yes, but we're not really husband and wife. We don't share a bed. We don't share our lives beyond the surface level. And Alexander has never said anything about real feelings, about this becoming more than a business arrangement. What happens when he doesn't need me anymore? When his position is secure and his enemies are defeated? Will he discard me like he's planning to discard Victoria's memory? That night I can't sleep. I pace my room, my mind spinning with questions and fears. Finally, around 2 a.m, I give up and head to the kitchen for some warm milk. An old comfort from childhood? I'm surprised to find Alexander there, standing by the counter in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his wheelchair nowhere in sight. He's making tea, and he looks as restless as I feel. Can't sleep either. He asks when he sees me. Too much on my mind. Victoria got to you. It's not a question. Maybe a little, I admit. She's right, you know. This marriage is a sham, is it? Alexander sets down his mug and walks over to me. We live together. We work together. We spend almost every evening together. We know each other's secrets, fears, dreams. How is that a sham? Because it's not real. Because you're still pretending, still playing a role. Because I don't know if you actually want me here or if I'm just convenient. Emma, no, let me finish. I've kept your secret. I've played my part. I've been your partner and your friend. But I need to know, Alexander. When this is over, when you don't need me anymore, what happens to me? Do I get discarded like Victoria? Do I become another casualty of your trust issues? Alexander is quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching my face. Then he does something that shocks me. He cups my face in his hands, his touch gentle but firm. You're not Victoria. You're not anyone I've ever known. And this, he gestures between us. This is the most real thing in my life. I don't know what the future holds, Emma. I don't know if I'm capable of the kind of love you probably deserve, but I know I don't want to lose you. I know that when I wake up, the first thing I think about is whether you're happy. I know that when something good happens, you're the first person I want to tell. I know that the thought of you leaving makes me feel like I'm drowning. My heart is hammering so hard I'm sure he can hear it. Alexander, I'm not good at this, he continues, his thumb stroking my cheeks. I'm broken in ways I don't know how to fix. But if you're willing to be patient with me, If you're willing to take a chance on someone as damaged as I am, I promise I'll try. I'll try to be the husband you deserve, not just the partner you agreed to. I don't need perfect, I whisper. I just need honest. Then honestly, Emma Clarke Miller, I'm falling for you. And it terrifies me. He kisses me then, and it's nothing like our wedding kiss. This is real, passionate, full of all the emotion we've been holding back for months. I kiss him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard. So, Alexander says, his forehead resting against mine. Friends might have been an understatement. I laugh, giddy and breathless. Might have been. Stay with me tonight. Not for appearances, not for the arrangement. Just because I don't want to be alone. Because I want to fall asleep with you in my arms and wake up with you beside me. Okay, I agree. My heart full of hope and fear and something that might be love. We go to the master suite together, and for the first time since our wedding, I sleep in Alexander's bed. We don't make love, not yet, we're not ready for that. But we hold each other, and we talk until dawn, sharing secrets and dreams and fears. And when I finally fall asleep, wrapped in Alexander's arms, I think that maybe, just maybe, this arranged marriage might become something real after all, something worth fighting for, something worth keeping. The morning after changes everything and nothing. I wake up in Alexander's arms, sunlight streaming through the windows, and for a moment I let myself believe in fairy tales. But then reality crashes back. We're still living a lie. Alexander is still pretending to be paralyzed. And now our relationship has become even more complicated. Good morning, Alexander murmurs, his voice rough with sleep. His arms tighten around me. I was worried you'd regret last night. Do you regret it? I ask, turning to face him. No, but I'm terrified of what it means. Me too. We lie there in comfortable silence for a while, neither of us wanting to break the spell. But eventually, the real world intrudes. Alexander's phone buzzes with messages, and I hear the staff beginning their morning routines downstairs. I should go to my room before anyone sees, I say reluctantly. We need to maintain appearances. Alexander's jaw tightens. I hate this. I hate hiding. I hate pretending. Then stop, tell the truth. Let people see that you can walk. I can't. Not yet. There are still people on the board who want me out, who are just waiting for an excuse to challenge my leadership. If they find out I've been lying for 2 years, they'll use it against me. They'll say I'm unstable, untrustworthy. Everything I've built will crumble. I understand his fear, but I also see the trap he's built for himself. Alexander, you can't live like this forever. Eventually the truth will come out. And the longer you wait, the worse the fallout will be. I know. I just need more time. 6 months, maybe a year. Once I've secured the new contracts and solidified my position, I can reveal the truth on my terms. I want to argue, but I can see the determination in his eyes. He's not ready. And pushing him will only drive him away. Okay, I agree. But Alexander, no more separate rooms. If we're doing this, if we're really trying to make this marriage work, I want to sleep in your bed every night. I want to wake up with you every morning. The staff doesn't need to know the details of our relationship, but I'm done pretending we're strangers. A slow smile spreads across his face. Deal, move your things in today. I do exactly that. By the time Alexander leaves for his office, my clothes are hanging in his closet. My books are on his nightstand. My presence is woven into every corner of the master suite. It feels like a small victory, a step toward something real. But victories in Alexander's world are never simple. 2 weeks later, I'm having lunch with my father at a small cafe downtown. It's our weekly tradition, one of the few pieces of my old life I've managed to hold on to. He looks better than he has in months, the stress lines around his eyes fading, his smile more genuine. The company is doing well, he tells me, his voice full of pride. We've secured 3 new contracts this month. The Miller name has opened doors I never thought possible. Emma, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for us. I'm glad things are working out, Dad. He reaches across the table and takes my hand. But are things working out for you? Are you happy? Is Alexander treating you well? I think about last night, about falling asleep in Alexander's arms after making love for the first time, about the way he whispered my name like a prayer. Yes, Dad, I'm happy. Alexander is. He's not what I expected. He's complicated and damaged, but he's also kind and brilliant, and he's trying. We're trying. My father's relief is palpable. I'm so glad. I've been carrying so much guilt about forcing you into this marriage. But seeing you now, seeing that glow in your eyes, I think maybe it worked out the way it was supposed to. I want to believe that. I want to believe that something good can come from something that started so wrong. But then I see her, Victoria Sterling, sitting 3 tables away, watching us with calculating eyes. She's not alone. There's a man with her, someone I don't recognize, and they're both staring at me with an intensity that makes my skin crawl. Dad, I need to go, I say abruptly, standing up. Is everything okay? Fine. I just remembered I have an appointment. I'll call you later. I leave quickly, but I can feel Victoria's eyes on me the entire way out. Something is wrong. Something is coming. I'm proven right 3 days later when Alexander comes home from the office looking like he's been in a war. His face is pale, his jaw clenched so tightly, I'm afraid he'll crack a tooth. What happened? I ask immediately, meeting him in the foyer. He doesn't answer, just wheels past me toward his office. I follow, closing the door behind us. The moment we're alone, he stands up from the wheelchair, pacing like a caged animal. Someone is investigating me, he says finally. Someone hired a private investigator to dig into my medical records, my therapy sessions, everything related to my accident and recovery. My blood runs cold. Who? I don't know yet. But whoever it is, they're thorough. They've been interviewing my old physical therapists, my doctors, anyone who might know the truth about my condition. It's only a matter of time before they find proof that I can walk. Victoria, I say with certainty. I saw her at lunch with my father a few days ago. She was watching me, and there was someone with her. It has to be her. Alexander's expression darkens. That vindictive, he cuts himself off, running a hand through his hair. If she exposes me, Emma, everything falls apart. The board will force me out. The media will crucify me. Every business deal I'd made in the past 2 years will be questioned. I'll be ruined. Then we need to act first. We need to control the narrative. How? If I admit I've been lying, the result is the same. I think quickly, my mind racing through possibilities. What if you didn't lie? What if you recovered recently, miraculously? We could stage it, make it look like a breakthrough. Get your doctors to confirm that sometimes paralysis can reverse itself, that you've been undergoing experimental treatments. Turn it into a triumph instead of a scandal. Alexander stops pacing, considering that could work. But the timing would be suspicious. Why would I suddenly recover now, right when someone is investigating me? Because of me, I say, the plan forming as I speak. Because love healed you. It sounds ridiculous, but the media loves that kind of story. The devoted wife who never gave up hope, who encouraged you to keep trying. Who was there when you took your first steps? We turn this into a love story, not a scandal. That's actually brilliant, Alexander admits. But it means going public with our relationship, really public. No more separate rooms, no more maintaining distance. We'd have to sell the world on the idea that we're madly in love. Would that be so hard? I ask quietly, because I'm not sure I'd be acting. Alexander crosses the room in 3 long strides and pulls me into his arms. Neither would I. God, Emma, when did this happen? When did you become the most important person in my life? Probably around the same time you became mine. He kisses me deep and desperate, and I can feel his fear, his need, his love. Yes, love. We haven't said the words yet, but they're there, hanging in the air between us, waiting to be acknowledged. Okay, he says when we finally break apart. We do this your way. Restage my recovery. We sell the love story. And we pray it's enough to neutralize whatever Victoria is planning. When? Soon, this weekend. We'll invite the media to the estate, make a big announcement. But first, I need to talk to my father, get him on board with the plan. Robert Miller is surprisingly supportive when Alexander explains the situation. I've been telling you for months to come clean, he says, shaking his head. But this approach might actually work. The public loves a redemption story, and Emma is sympathetic enough to sell it. Just make sure your doctors are prepared to back up the medical claims. We can't have any holes in the story. I'll handle it, Alexander assures him. The next few days are a whirlwind of preparation. Alexander's doctors are brought in and briefed on the plan. They're uncomfortable with the deception, but they're also loyal to the Miller family and agreed to support the narrative of a miraculous recovery, aided by experimental treatments and the power of love. We stage photographs of Alexander's first steps, carefully choreographed to look spontaneous and emotional. I'm there in every shot, holding his hand, tears streaming down my face. The tears are real, even if the moment isn't, because I'm emotional about this, about the risk we're taking, about how much we stand to lose if this goes wrong. The press conference is scheduled for Saturday afternoon. We invite every major media outlet, promising an exclusive announcement about Alexander's condition. The speculation is immediate and intense. Some outlets guess he's dying. Others think he's stepping down as CEO. No one guesses the truth. Saturday morning, I wake up in Alexander's arms, both of us too nervous to sleep well. Are you ready for this? I ask. No, but I don't have a choice. It's this or watch everything I've built crumble. He turns to face me, his expression serious. Emma, if this goes wrong, if the truth comes out anyway, I want you to know that you can walk away. The prenup protects you financially. You'll be taken care of. You don't have to go down with me. Stop, I interrupt. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together, remember? Partners? Partners, he agrees. But I can see the fear in his eyes. The press conference is held in the main ballroom, the same room where we got married 6 months ago. The irony isn't lost on me. We're standing in the place where our lie began, about to tell an even bigger one. The room is packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. I can see Victoria in the back, her expression smug. She thinks she's won, that she's about to watch Alexander's downfall. She has no idea what's coming. Alexander is in his wheelchair, dressed in a sharp suit, looking every inch the powerful CEO. I stand beside him, my hand on his shoulder, playing my role perfectly. Thank you all for coming, Alexander begins, his voice strong and clear. I've asked you here today to share some personal news. As you all know, 2 years ago, I was in a serious car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors told me I would never walk again. For a long time, I believed them. I accepted my new reality and focused on running my company from this wheelchair. He pauses, and I can feel the tension in the room, everyone leaning forward, waiting. But 6 months ago, something changed. I got married to an incredible woman who refused to accept that my condition was permanent. Emma encouraged me to try new treatments, to never give up hope. And slowly, miraculously, I began to regain feeling in my legs. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Cameras flash. I see Victoria's smug expression falter. For the past 3 months, I've been working with a team of specialists on experimental treatments. The progress has been slow and painful, but it's been real. And today, I want to share something with you that I never thought would be possible. Alexander grips the armrests of his wheelchair and, with visible effort, pushes himself to standing. The room erupts. Reporters are shouting questions, cameras are flashing like strobe lights, and I can hear people crying. I move to Alexander's side, and he takes my hand, squeezing tightly. He takes one step, then another, walking slowly but steadily across the small stage we've set up. It's only about 10 feet, but it might as well be a marathon for the reaction it gets. When he reaches the end, he turns to face the crowd, and I can see tears streaming down his face. Real tears, because even though this moment is staged, the emotion behind it is genuine. He really did think he'd never walk again. He really did spend months in agony, learning to use his legs again. The only lie is the timeline. I want to thank my wife, Emma, for never giving up on me. Alexander says, his voice thick with emotion. She's the reason I kept fighting. She's the reason I'm standing here today. And I want the world to know that I love her more than anything. He pulls me into his arms and kisses me in front of all those cameras, all those witnesses. And in that moment, I forget about the lie, forget about the performance. All I feel is his love, real and overwhelming and terrifying in its intensity. The press conference is a massive success. Within hours, the story is everywhere. Miracle recovery, CEO walks again thanks to love, the headlines scream. The power of true love, Alexander Miller, defies medical odds. From wheelchair to walking, a modern miracle. The public eats it up. Social media explodes with supportive messages. Alexander's stock price actually goes up, and Victoria Sterling is left looking like a fool. Her investigation now meaningless because Alexander has already revealed his recovery on his own terms. That night, after all the reporters have left and the house is quiet, Alexander and I collapse onto the bed in the master suite, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," I say, still not quite believing it worked. "You did it," Alexander corrects. "This was your plan, your brilliance. Emma, you saved me today. You saved everything." "We saved each other," I insist. "That's what partners do." He rolls over to face me, his expression serious. "I meant what I said today. About loving you, that wasn't part of the performance. That was real." My heart stops. "Alexander, I love you, Emma. I don't know when it happened or how, but somewhere between hating you and tolerating you and becoming friends with you, I fell completely, irrevocably in love with you. And I know this started as an arrangement. I know we were both forced into this. But I don't want to pretend anymore. I want this to be real. I want you to be my wife in every sense of the word. If you'll have me." Tears are streaming down my face now. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears. "I love you too. I think I have for a while now, but I was too afraid to admit it. Too afraid you'd push me away. Never," he promises, pulling me close. "I'm never pushing you away again. You're stuck with me, Emma Miller. For better or worse, in sickness and health, for as long as we both shall live." Those are wedding vows. I know. And this time I mean them. We make love that night with a new intensity, a new honesty. There are no more walls between us, no more secrets, no more pretending. We're just Alexander and Emma, two broken people who found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and somehow made it work. But our happiness is short-lived. 3 days after the press conference, Alexander receives a letter. It's delivered by courier, marked urgent and confidential. I'm with him in his office when he opens it, and I watch his face go pale as he reads. "What is it?" I ask, fear creeping up my spine. He hands me the letter without a word. It's from a law firm I don't recognize, and the contents make my blood run cold. "Dear Mr. Miller, we represent our client, Victoria Sterling, in a matter of defamation and emotional distress. Our client contends that your recent claims of a miraculous recovery are fraudulent and that you have been capable of walking for significantly longer than you have publicly stated. We have obtained medical records and witness testimony that support this claim. Unless you agree to our client's terms, we will be filing a lawsuit and releasing this evidence to the media. Our client's terms are as follows. 1. You will publicly apologize to Ms. Sterling for your treatment of her following your accident. 2. You will pay Ms. Sterling $50 million in compensation for emotional distress. 3. You will step down as CEO of Miller Industries. You have 72 hours to respond." I read the letter twice, my hand shaking. She knows. She has proof. Apparently. Alexander's voice is flat, emotionless, but I can see the panic in his eyes. She must have found a therapist or nurse who was willing to talk. Someone who saw me walking during my recovery. What do we do? I don't know. If I give in to her demands, I look weak and guilty. If I fight her, she releases the evidence and I'm exposed as a liar anyway. Either way, I lose. There has to be another option. We can't just give up. Alexander stands and walks to the window, staring out at the grounds. Maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to face the consequences of my choices. "No," I say firmly, standing up and crossing to him. "We didn't come this far to give up now. Victoria is bluffing. She has to be. If she really had solid proof, she would have released it already. She's trying to scare you into paying her off, and if she's not bluffing, then we fight. We get our own lawyers, we challenge her evidence. We make her prove every claim. And if the truth comes out, we deal with it together. But we don't let her win. We don't let her destroy everything you've built. Alexander turns to me, and I see something shift in his expression. Hope, maybe, or determination. You're right. I've been playing defense for too long. It's time to go on the offensive. What are you thinking? A slow, dangerous smile spreads across his face. I'm thinking it's time Victoria Sterling learned what happens when you threaten a miller. And I'm thinking my brilliant wife is about to help me destroy her. I should be scared. I should be worried about the line we're about to cross. But all I feel is a fierce, protective love for this man and a burning desire to protect what we've built together. Tell me what you need me to do, I say, and Alexander does. Because we're partners, we're lovers, we're husband and wife. And we're about to go to war. Alexander's plan is brilliant and ruthless. Exactly what I've come to expect from him. Instead of responding to Victoria's demands, we go silent. We don't acknowledge the letter. Don't reach out to her lawyers. Don't give any indication that we're worried. The silence, Alexander explains, will make her nervous. Make her wonder if we're calling her bluff or preparing a counterattack. Meanwhile, Alexander puts his own team of investigators to work. If Victoria has dirt on me, I guarantee she has skeletons in her own closet. He says grimly, everyone does, we just need to find them. It takes less than 48 hours? Victoria Sterling, it turns out, has been living well beyond her means since returning from Europe. She's racked up massive gambling debts, owes money to some very dangerous people, and has been using her family's name to secure loans she has no intention of repaying. More damning, she's been having an affair with a married business partner of Alexander's, a man named Marcus Chen who sits on the Miller Industries board. Marcus, Alexander says, his voice cold with fury. He's one of the board members who's been pushing to have me removed as CEO. He's been feeding Victoria information about the company, about me, probably hoping to destabilize my position so he can make a play for control. So Victoria's lawsuit isn't just about revenge, I realize. It's about money and power. She and Marcus are working together. Exactly. And now we have leverage. Alexander calls an emergency board meeting for the following day. He doesn't tell anyone why, just that it's urgent and mandatory. I can see the board members' confusion and concern as they file into the conference room at Miller Tower. Victoria isn't there, but Marcus is, looking smug and confident. He has no idea what's coming. Thank you all for coming on short notice. Alexander begins, standing at the head of the table. Several board members look surprised to see him standing, even though his recovery was announced publicly. Old habits die hard. I've called this meeting to address a serious threat to this company and to my leadership. He clicks a button on the remote in his hand, and the large screen behind him lights up with documents, photographs, and financial records. For the past several months, one of our own board members has been conspiring with my ex-fiancé to undermine my position as CEO. Marcus Chen has been leaking confidential company information, manipulating stock prices, and working with Victoria Sterling to extort $50 million from me in exchange for not releasing fabricated evidence about my medical condition. The room erupts. Board members are shouting questions. Marcus is on his feet, denying everything. And I'm standing in the corner watching Alexander command the room with absolute authority. The evidence is irrefutable, Alexander continues, his voice cutting through the chaos. Marcus has been having an affair with Ms. Sterling for the past 6 months. He's been using company resources to fund her lifestyle and her gambling debts. And he's been working with her to orchestrate a hostile takeover of Miller Industries, with himself as the proposed new CEO. He clicks through more slides showing bank transfers, hotel receipts, recorded phone conversations. Marcus's face goes from red to white as the evidence mounts. This is absurd, Marcus sputters. You can't prove any of this. I just did, Alexander says calmly. And now you have 2 choices. You can resign from the board immediately, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and walk away with your reputation somewhat intact. Or I can turn all of this evidence over to the authorities and let them investigate you for corporate espionage, fraud, and conspiracy. Your choice. You have 60 seconds. Marcus looks around the table searching for allies, but every other board member is staring at him with disgust and fury. He's been caught, and he knows it. I resign, he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Excellent. Patricia will have the paperwork ready for you to sign on your way out. And Marcus, if you or Victoria ever come near me, my wife, or my company again, I will destroy you both. Completely and without mercy. Do we understand each other? Marcus nods, defeated, and leaves the room escorted by security. The remaining board members sit in stunned silence. Finally, Robert Miller, who's been watching from the back of the room, stands and begins to clap. Slowly, the other board members join in, applauding Alexander's handling of the situation. That, Robert says with pride, is why my son is the CEO of this company. Any questions about his leadership abilities? No one says a word. After the meeting, Alexander and I return to the estate, both of us exhausted but victorious. It's over, I say, still not quite believing it. Victoria and Marcus are finished. Not quite, Alexander says. Victoria still has whatever evidence she claims to have about my recovery timeline. We've neutralized her ability to use it, but the threat still exists. So what do? We meet with her, face to face, and we make her an offer she can't refuse. The meeting is arranged for the following evening at a neutral location, a private room at an upscale restaurant. Victoria arrives looking haggard, her usual polish cracked. She knows about Marcus's resignation, knows her plan has fallen apart. Alexander, she says, her voice lacking its usual confidence. And Emma. How domestic. Sit down, Victoria, Alexander says, his tone leaving no room for argument. She sits, and I take the chair next to Alexander, presenting a united front. Let's be clear about the situation, Alexander begins. Your partner has been exposed and removed from the board. Your gambling debts are public knowledge. Your family has cut you off financially. You have no leverage, no allies, and no options. So here's what's going to happen. He slides a folder across the table. Victoria opens it, her eyes widening as she reads. I'm offering you $5 million, Alexander continues. In exchange, you will sign a non-disclosure agreement about everything related to me, my medical condition, and my personal life. You will leave the country and not return for at least 5 years. And you will never contact me, my wife, or anyone associated with Miller Industries again. $5 million. Victoria laughs bitterly. You are going to pay me $50 million. That was when you had leverage. Now you have nothing. $5 million is more than generous, considering I could just as easily let your creditors know where to find you. I hear some of them are quite creative in their collection methods. Victoria's face pales. She looks at the contract, then at Alexander, then at me. I can see her weighing her options, realizing she has none. Why are you doing this? She asks finally. Why give me anything at all? Because despite everything, we were together for 3 years. Because I'm not a monster, even if you think I am. And because my wife convinced me that mercy is sometimes more powerful than revenge. Victoria looks at me with something like respect. You're good for him, she says quietly. Better than I ever was. I know, I reply simply. She signs the contract. Within a week, she's gone. Relocated to somewhere in South America with her $5 million and a chance to start over. I never hear from her again. With Victoria and Marcus dealt with, life finally settles into something resembling normal. Alexander's more confident as CEO. His position secure now that the threats have been eliminated. The board respects him, the company is thriving, and the media has moved on to other stories. But there's still one secret we're keeping. One lie that hasn't been fully addressed. Alexander's recovery timeline. We told the world he'd been walking for 3 months. The truth is, it's been nearly 2 years. We need to tell your father the whole truth. I say one evening as we're getting ready for bed. He knows you've been walking longer than we claimed, but he doesn't know about the deception with the board, with Victoria, with everyone. Why does it matter now? The threat is gone. Because secrets have a way of coming back to haunt you. Because your father deserves to know the full extent of what we did. And because I don't want to start our real life together with lies between us and your family. Alexander is quiet for a long moment. Then he nods. You're right. We'll tell him this weekend. Robert Miller's reaction is not what we expect. We sit him down in his study, the same room where he first proposed the marriage arrangement to my father. And we tell him everything. The 2-year deception, the staged recovery, the manipulation of the board and the media. When we finish, Robert is silent for a long time. Then, to our shock, he starts laughing. I knew, he says, wiping tears from his eyes. Alexander, I've known for over a year that you could walk. What? How? I'm your father. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? I saw you walking in the garden one night when you thought everyone was asleep. I've known this entire time. Then why didn't you say anything? Alexander demands, looking betrayed. Because I understood why you were doing it. Because I knew you needed to work through your trust issues in your own way. And because I wanted to see if you'd eventually trust me enough to tell me the truth. Robert looks at me with approval. Emma, you've been good for my son. You've made him more human, more honest. The fact that he's here now, telling me the truth, proves that. So you're not angry? I ask. Angry? No. Disappointed that it took this long, perhaps. But mostly, I'm proud. Proud of how you both handled Victoria and Marcus. Proud of how you've built a real partnership. And proud that my son finally found someone worthy of him. The relief is overwhelming. We leave Robert's house feeling lighter than we have in months. All the secrets are out. All the threats are neutralized. We can finally just be Alexander and Emma, husband and wife, without the weight of deception crushing us. But life, as I'm learning, is never that simple. 2 months later, I start feeling sick. It begins with morning nausea, then exhaustion, then a sensitivity to smells that makes me avoid the kitchen entirely. I tell myself it's stress, that I'm just tired from everything we've been through. But when I miss my period, I can't ignore it anymore. I take a pregnancy test in secret, my hands shaking as I wait for the results. When the 2 pink lines appear, I have to sit down on the bathroom floor. My mind reeling. I'm pregnant. Alexander and I are going to have a baby. I should be happy. We're in love, we're stable. We have more than enough resources to raise a child. But all I can think about is how this marriage started. How I was sold to Alexander like property. How our entire relationship is built on a foundation of lies and arrangements. What kind of parents will we be? What kind of life can we give a child when our own story is so complicated? I hide the pregnancy for a week, trying to figure out how to tell Alexander. Trying to process my own feelings. But he notices something is wrong. Emma, you've barely eaten in days, he says one evening, his concern evident. Are you sick? Should we call a doctor? I'm not sick, I say quietly. I'm pregnant. The words hang in the air between us. Alexander's face goes through a series of emotions, shock, confusion, fear, and finally joy. Pregnant, he repeats, as if testing the word. We're having a baby. Yes. I know we never discussed this. I know it's not part of the plan. He cuts me off by pulling me into his arms and kissing me deeply. When he pulls back, there are tears in his eyes. Emma, this is the best news I've ever received. A baby. Our baby. A family that's real, that's ours. That's not built on arrangements or contracts or lies. This is everything I never knew I wanted. His reaction breaks something open in me, and I start crying too. All my fears and doubts pouring out. I'm scared, Alexander. What if we mess this up? What if we can't give our child the life they deserve? Then we'll figure it out together, like we figured out everything else. Emma, you've made me believe in things I thought were impossible. Love, trust, family. If anyone can do this, it's us. He's right. We've overcome so much already. We can overcome this too. The pregnancy is announced publicly 3 months later, after we've confirmed everything is healthy and progressing normally. The media goes crazy, of course. Miracle baby for miracle couple, the headlines proclaim. Alexander Miller and wife expecting first child. The attention is overwhelming, but we handle it together. Alexander becomes fiercely protective, limiting my public appearances, making sure I'm never stressed or overwhelmed. He reads every pregnancy book he can find, attends every doctor's appointment, and talks to my growing belly every night before bed. I'm going to be a better father than mine was. He tells our unborn child one evening, I'm going to be present, involved, loving. I'm going to make sure you know every single day how wanted and loved you are. Watching him like this, so tender and vulnerable, I fall in love with him all over again. But at 7 months pregnant, complications arise. I start having contractions too early, too intense. Alexander rushes me to the hospital, his face pale with fear. It's preterm labor, the doctor explains. We're going to try to stop it, but if we can't, we may need to deliver the baby early. At 30 weeks, the baby would have a good chance, but there are risks. They managed to stop the labor with medication and bed rest, but I'm hospitalized for 2 weeks for observation. Alexander never leaves my side. He sleeps in the uncomfortable hospital chair, works from his laptop, and holds my hand through every contraction, every scare, every moment of fear. I can't lose you, he whispers one night when he thinks I'm asleep. I can't lose either of you. You're my whole world, Emma, you and this baby. If something happens, nothing is going to happen, I interrupt, squeezing his hand. We're fighters, remember, all 3 of us, and we are. The baby stays put for another 6 weeks, and at 36 weeks, our daughter is born. She's small but healthy, with Alexander's dark hair and my green eyes. We name her Grace because that's what she is. Grace in the midst of chaos. Grace after everything we've been through. Holding her for the first time. Looking at Alexander's face as he cradles our daughter with infinite tenderness. I realize that everything we went through was worth it. Every lie, every struggle, every moment of doubt led us here. To this perfect moment. She's beautiful, Alexander whispers, tears streaming down his face. She's perfect. Emma, we made this. We made something perfect. We did, I agree, my own tears falling. We really did. And in that moment, I understand something profound. Our marriage may have started as a transaction, but it became something real. Something beautiful, something worth fighting for. We took a forced arrangement and turned it into love. We took lies and turned them into truth. We took brokenness and turned it into wholeness. And now we have Grace. The living proof that something good can come from something that started so wrong. Our story isn't a fairy tale. It's messy and complicated and built on a foundation that would make most people run. But it's ours, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. Because every moment, good and bad, led me to Alexander, led me to Grace, led me to this life that I never knew I wanted, but now can't imagine living without. We're not perfect. We're still learning, still growing, still figuring out how to be partners and parents and people who trust each other completely. But we're trying, and in the end, that's all that matters. We're trying, together, to build something real from the ashes of what we were forced to become. And somehow, miraculously, it's working. Grace changes everything. In the weeks and months following her birth, Alexander and I discover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. He's a natural father, patient and gentle in ways that surprise even him. I watch him change diapers at 3 a.m, singing softly to soothe her back to sleep. Can I fall in love with him all over again? I never thought I could feel this way. He tells me one night as we watch Grace sleep in her nursery, this terrified and this happy at the same time. Every time I look at her, I think about all the ways I could fail her, all the ways the world could hurt her. But then she smiles at me, and I know I'd burn the world down to keep her safe. That's called being a parent, I say with a smile. Welcome to the club. But parenthood also brings challenges we didn't anticipate. Alexander struggles with letting go of control, with accepting that he can't protect Grace from everything. I struggle with the loss of independence, with the way my identity has shifted from Emma the individual to Emma the mother. We argue more than we used to. about feeding schedules and sleep training, and whether Grace should have a nanny or if we should handle everything ourselves. The arguments are never cruel, never designed to wound like they might have been in the early days of our marriage. But they're real, and they force us to communicate in ways we've been avoiding. I feel like I'm losing myself. I admit one evening after a particularly difficult day. Grace has been crying for hours. Nothing we do seems to help, and I'm exhausted to the point of tears. I love her so much, Alexander, but I don't know who I am anymore. I'm not just your wife or Grace's mother. I'm Emma, and I feel like she's disappearing. Alexander pulls me into his arms, and I can feel him thinking, processing. What do you need? He asks finally. Tell me what you need, and I'll make it happen. I need time. Time to finish my business degree. Time to work on projects that are mine. Time to remember who I was before all of this. Then that's what you'll have. We'll hire a nanny, not to replace you, but to give you the space you need. You can go back to volunteering at the museum, take your classes, pursue whatever makes you happy. Grace needs a mother who's fulfilled, not one who's sacrificing everything and resenting it. I don't resent her, I know. But you could, eventually, if you don't take care of yourself. Emma, you've spent the past year taking care of me, taking care of Grace, taking care of everyone but yourself. Let me take care of you for a change. We hire a nanny named Sarah, a kind woman in her 50s with decades of experience. She's not a replacement, just support, giving me the freedom to reclaim parts of my life while still being present for Grace. I finish my business degree 6 months after Grace is born. Alexander attends my online graduation ceremony, Grace in his arms, both of them beaming with pride. It's a small victory, but it feels monumental. I'm proud of you, Alexander says, kissing me softly. You're brilliant, Emma. You always have been. I'm sorry it took me so long to really see that. You see me now. That's what matters. With my degree complete, I start getting more involved in Miller Industries. Not as Alexander's wife, but as a consultant, using my skills in art and psychology to help with marketing and client relations. I'm good at it. Good enough that Alexander offers me a real position with a real salary. I don't need your money, I remind him. I'm already married to you. This isn't about the marriage. This is about you earning what you're worth. You're an asset to this company, Emma. Let me compensate you accordingly. I accept, and for the first time in my life, I have my own career, my own income, my own professional identity. It's empowering in ways I didn't expect, but success brings its own challenges. There are people in the company who resent me, who think I only got my position because I'm the CEO's wife. There are whispers and rumors, suggestions that I'm not qualified, that I'm just playing at having a career. One board member, an older man named Gerald, is particularly vocal. With all due respect, Mrs. Pent. Miller, he says during a meeting, his tone making it clear he has no respect at all. Your ideas are charming, but perhaps you should leave the real business decisions to those of us with actual experience. The room goes silent. Everyone is watching to see how I'll respond, whether I'll crumble or fight back. I choose to fight. With all due respect, Gerald, I say, my voice calm but firm. My ideas have increased client retention by 15% in the past quarter. My marketing campaign for the Singapore deal brought in $20 million in new revenue. And my charming approach to client relations has secured partnerships that your actual experience failed to achieve. So perhaps instead of dismissing me because of who I'm married to, you should judge me based on my results. Are you threatened by the fact that someone with less experience is outperforming you? Gerald's face turns red, but he has no response. The other board members are hiding smiles, and I can see Alexander in the corner, his expression a mixture of pride and barely contained laughter. After the meeting, Alexander pulls me into his office and kisses me breathless. That was the sexiest thing I've ever seen, he says, his voice rough with desire. Watching you destroy Gerald with facts and logic. I'm going to have a hard time concentrating for the rest of the day. I laugh, feeling powerful and desired and completely myself. Good. Suffer. Oh, I plan to. And tonight, I plan to show you exactly how much I appreciate having a brilliant, fierce, unstoppable wife. He keeps his promise, and that night is one of the best of our marriage. As Grace grows, so does our family in unexpected ways. My father, who's been a constant presence in our lives, starts dating again. He meets a woman named Linda at a charity event, and they fall in love with the ease of people who've already lived through heartbreak and know what they want. I hope you don't mind, my father says nervously when he introduces us. I know your mother will always be my first love, but Linda makes me happy. She makes me want to live again, not just exist. Dad, I'm thrilled for you, I say honestly, hugging him tight. You deserve happiness. Mom would want this for you. They marry in a small ceremony a year later, and watching my father smile the way he does when he looks at Linda, I realize that second chances are real, that love can find you more than once, that it's never too late to start over. Alexander's relationship with his father also evolves. Robert steps back from the company, officially retiring and leaving Alexander in complete control. But instead of drifting apart, they grow closer. Robert becomes a devoted grandfather, spending hours with Grace, teaching her about the family history, spoiling her shamelessly. I wasn't a good father to you. Robert admits to Alexander one evening when we're all having dinner together. I was too focused on the business, on building the empire. I miss so much of your childhood. But watching you with Grace, seeing the father you've become, I'm so proud of you, son. You're better than I ever was. Alexander's eyes are suspiciously bright. You did your best, Dad, and you're making up for it now. Grace adores you. She's easy to adore. She's got her mother's heart and her father's determination. She's going to change the world someday. Let's just focus on getting her through the terrible twos first. I say with a laugh. But Robert is right. Grace is special. Even at 2 years old, she's curious, fearless, and impossibly loving. She has Alexander wrapped around her tiny finger, and she knows it. Daddy, up. She demands, and Alexander immediately scoops her into his arms, his fierce CEO persona melting into pure adoration. Anything for you, princess, he says, kissing her cheek. Watching them together, I'm struck by how far we've come. The man who once told me he didn't want me, who treated me with cold indifference, is now the most devoted father and husband I could imagine. The marriage that started as a transaction has become the foundation of a real family. But our past isn't completely behind us. 3 years after Grace is born, I receive a letter. It's from Victoria Sterling, postmarked from Brazil. Dear Emma, it reads, I know I have no right to contact you after everything that happened, but I wanted you to know that the $5 million Alexander gave me changed my life. I used it to get help for my gambling addiction, to pay off my debts, and to start over. I'm sober now, working as a teacher, living a quiet life. I'm not asking for forgiveness or trying to reinsert myself into your lives. I just wanted to say thank you. You and Alexander showed me mercy when I deserved none. That kindness saved my life. I hope you're both happy. I hope you've built the life you deserve. With gratitude, Victoria. I show the letter to Alexander, watching his face as he reads it. What do you think? I ask. I think people can change. I think we all deserve second chances. And I think you were right to convince me to show her mercy instead of destroying her. Should we respond? No. Let her have her fresh start without us in it. But I'm glad she's okay. I'm glad something good came from all of that mess. I agree, and we never hear from Victoria again. But knowing she found peace brings me peace too. As the years pass, our life settles into a beautiful rhythm. Grace starts school, showing the same intelligence and determination her father has. Alexander continues to lead Miller Industries, but he's different now. Less ruthless, more compassionate. He still makes tough decisions, but he considers the human cost, not just the financial benefit. You've made me soft. He teases one evening after he approves a generous severance package for an employee who's being let go. I've made you human, I correct. There's a difference. I continue to work at Miller Industries, eventually becoming the vice president of client relations. I earn the position through merit, through results, through proving myself over and over until even the skeptics have to admit I belong there. We have a second child when Grace is 5, A son we named James after the butler has been with the Miller family for decades. James is quieter than Grace, more thoughtful, with Alexander's dark eyes and my auburn hair. He's the perfect addition to our family. 2 kids, Alexander says one night as we watch them sleep. We have 2 kids, a successful company, a real marriage. How did this happen? We worked for it. We fought for it. We chose each other every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard, he agrees, pulling me close. Emma, do you ever regret it? Marrying me, I mean. Giving up your freedom, your choices, your chance at a normal life. I think about the question seriously because he deserves an honest answer. I regret how it started. I regret that we were both forced into something we didn't choose. But I don't regret where we ended up. I don't regret falling in love with you. I don't regret our children or our life or any of the choices we've made together. This isn't the life I planned, Alexander. It's better. He kisses me then, soft and sweet and full of love. I love you, Emma Miller. I loved you when I didn't want to. I loved you when I was afraid to. And I'll love you for the rest of my life. I love you too. Even when you're being impossible. Especially when I'm being impossible, he says with a grin. On our 10th wedding anniversary, Alexander surprises me with a vow renewal ceremony. It's small, intimate, just our family and closest friends. But it's real in a way our first wedding never was. 10 years ago, I married you because I had to, Alexander says, his voice strong and clear as he holds my hands. I married you because my father arranged it, because you needed to save your family, because it was a business transaction. But today I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this marriage, this life, this love. Emma, you've made me believe in things I thought were impossible. You've healed wounds I thought were permanent. You've given me a family, a purpose, a reason to be better than I was. I vow to spend the rest of my life choosing you, loving you, and being worthy of the gift you've given me. I'm crying, of course, but they're happy tears. 10 years ago, I married you because I had no choice. I was scared, alone, and convinced I was sacrificing my happiness for my father's company. But you gave me so much more than I sacrificed. You gave me love, partnership, family, and a life beyond anything I dreamed possible. Alexander, you're not perfect. You're stubborn and controlling and sometimes impossible, but you're mine. And I choose you today and every day for the rest of our lives. We exchange new rings, symbols of the choice we're making, not the obligation we once fulfilled. And when we kiss, it's not the cold, perfunctory kiss of our first wedding. It's passionate, real, full of 10 years of love and struggle and triumph. Our children cheer, our families cry, and I realize that this, right here, is what happiness looks like. Not perfect, not easy, but real and earned and worth every moment of struggle it took to get here. That night, after the celebration is over and the children are asleep, Alexander and I sit on the balcony of our bedroom, looking out at the estate grounds. Do you remember our wedding night? Alexander asks. When I made you sleep on the couch. How could I forget? I cried myself to sleep in my wedding dress. I was such an ass, he says, shaking his head. I was so angry at the world, so convinced everyone was out to hurt me, that I hurt you instead. If I could go back and change that night, don't, I interrupt. Don't wish away our past, even the painful parts, because every moment, good and bad, led us here, and I wouldn't change where we are for anything. Not even for a normal courtship, a real proposal, a wedding you actually wanted. We have something better than normal. We have a love that was tested from day one and survived. We have a partnership built on honesty and trust that we had to fight for. We have a family that exists because we chose to make it work, not because it was easy. That's worth more than any fairy tale romance. Alexander pulls me into his lap, holding me close. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You were just too stubborn to notice. He laughs, and the sound is full of joy, free from the bitterness that once defined him. I love you, Emma. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for seeing who I could be, even when I couldn't see it myself. I love you too. Thank you for letting me in. Thank you for trusting me with your secrets, your fears, your heart. We sit there in comfortable silence, wrapped in each other's arms, and I think about the girl I was 10 years ago. The girl who stood in front of a mirror in a wedding dress she didn't choose, preparing to marry a man she'd never met, convinced her life was over. If I could go back and tell her anything, I'd tell her this: your life isn't ending. It's beginning. The man you're about to marry will hurt you, challenge you, frustrate you beyond measure, but he'll also love you, protect you, and give you a life beyond your wildest dreams. Trust the process, trust yourself, and most importantly, trust that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. Because Alexander Miller was never part of my plan. He was an obligation, a sacrifice, a forced arrangement that should have been a disaster. Instead, he became my everything. And our story, which started with lies and arrangements and cold indifference, became the greatest love story I could have ever imagined. Not because it was easy, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And in the end, real is all that matters. I rest my head on Alexander's shoulder, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the warmth of his arms around me, and I smile. This is happiness. This is love. This is home. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Years continue to pass, and our children grow into remarkable people. Grace, now 15, is fierce and independent, already talking about studying business so she can one day join Miller Industries. She has her father's determination and my empathy, a combination that makes her unstoppable. James, at 10, is quieter but no less impressive. He loves art and music, spending hours in the studio we built for him, creating beautiful things. He's sensitive and thoughtful, the emotional heart of our family. Alexander and I watch them grow with pride and occasional terror. Parenting teenagers is harder than running a multi-billion-dollar company. We often joke, but we face it together, just like we faced everything else. On the 20th anniversary of our wedding, our children surprise us with a party. They've invited everyone who's been part of our journey, my father and Linda, Robert, the staff who've been with us since the beginning, even Patricia, Alexander's longtime assistant who's become a dear friend. 20 years, Grace says in her speech, her voice strong and clear. 20 years ago, my parents entered into an arranged marriage. They didn't choose each other. They didn't love each other. They were strangers forced together by circumstance. But they chose to make it work. They chose to build something real from something artificial. And in doing so, they taught James and me the most important lesson we could ever learn, that love is a choice you make every single day. It's not about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing to be perfect for each other. Mom, Dad, thank you for showing us what real love looks like. Thank you for fighting for each other, for us, for this family. We love you. There's not a dry eye in the room. Alexander is openly crying, something that would have been unthinkable 20 years ago. I'm crying too, overwhelmed by gratitude for this life, this family, this love. I have something to say. Alexander announces, standing up and pulling me to my feet beside him. 20 years ago, I was a broken man. I was bitter, angry, convinced that everyone was out to hurt me. I agreed to marry Emma because I had to, because it served my purposes, because I thought I could keep her at arm's length and maintain my walls. But Emma had other plans. She refused to be kept at a distance. She saw through my defenses, called me on my lies, and forced me to be better than I was. She saved me in every way a person can be saved. And I want everyone here to know that marrying Emma Clarke was the best decision I never made. Because if it had been up to me, I would have chosen wrong. I would have chosen safety over risk, walls over vulnerability, loneliness over love. Thank God the choice was made for me. Thank God I was forced to marry the woman who would become my everything. He turns to me, taking my hands. Emma, I've said I love you thousands of times over the past 20 years. But I want to say it again, here in front of everyone who matters. I love you. I love your strength, your compassion, your refusal to let me hide from the world. I love the mother you are, the partner you've become, the woman you've always been. I love that you chose me every single day, even when I didn't deserve it. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that choice. You already are. I whisper, my voice breaking. Alexander, you've been worthy from the moment you let me see the real you, from the moment you trusted me with your secrets, from the moment you chose to love me back. We've built something beautiful together, something that started from nothing and became everything. And I would do it all again, every difficult moment, every struggle, every tear, just to end up right here, right now, with you. We kiss and our family and friends cheer, and I realize that this is what happily ever after really looks like. Not a perfect fairy tale, but a real, messy, beautiful life built by two imperfect people who chose to love each other anyway. As the party winds down and our guests begin to leave, Alexander and I find ourselves alone in the garden where we used to walk in the early days of our marriage, when we were still learning to be friends. Do you remember the first time we walked here together? Alexander asks, his arm around my waist. You told me about your fear of spiders, I recall with a smile. And you didn't laugh, you just accepted it, accepted me, flaws and all. That's what love is, isn't it? Accepting someone completely, flaws and all, and choosing them anyway. Yes, he agrees. And Emma, I choose you. Today, tomorrow, for the rest of our lives, I choose you. I choose you too, I say, leaning into his embrace. Always. We stand there in the garden, under the stars. Two people who were forced together by circumstance and chose to stay together by love. Our story isn't conventional. It's not what anyone would call normal. But it's ours, and it's perfect. Because in the end, the best love stories aren't the ones that start perfectly. They're the ones that overcome imperfection and become something real. Something lasting, something worth fighting for. Alexander and I fought for our love. We fought through lies and betrayals and obstacles that should have destroyed us. We fought through our own fears and insecurities and damaged hearts. And we won. We won a love that's real and deep and unshakable. We won a family that's built on honesty and trust. We won a life that's beyond anything either of us could have imagined when we stood at that altar 20 years ago. Strangers bound by obligation. Now we're not strangers. We're not bound by obligation. We're bound by choice, by love, by 20 years of choosing each other every single day. And that, I think, as Alexander holds me close and whispers his love into my ear, is the greatest victory of all. This is my life. This is my love. This is my happily ever after. And I wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that brought me here.